has resumed. We are now on Title 10, Crimes Against Property. The first among these is robbery. Robbery is committed when a person takes the personal property of another with intent to gain, without the consent of the owner thereof, either with violence against or intimidation of persons or by use of force upon things. The elements of robbery are first, that there be unlawful taking of personal property. Second, the personal property must belong to another person. Third, in the act of taking there is intent to gain. Fourth, the act of taking was done without the consent of the owner and by means of violence against or intimidation of persons or use of force upon things. Whenever the act of taking of personal property is accompanied either with violence against or intimidation of persons or by force upon things, it is robbery. If, however, the act of taking of the personal property of another is not attended by any form of violence against or intimidation of persons, or any form of force upon things, the crime committed is theft. Both involves taking of personal property with intent to gain. However, they differ in that in robbery there is always violence against or intimidation of persons or use of force upon things. In theft, there is none. There are two ways of committing robbery. The first one is robbery with violence against or intimidation of persons under Article 294. And the other one is robbery by force upon things. The following acts are punished as robbery with violence against or intimidation of persons. First, when by reason or on the occasion of robbery, the crime of homicide is committed. When robbery is accompanied by rape or intentional mutilation or arson. When by reason or on the occasion of the robbery, any of the serious physical injuries resulting in insanity, imbecility, impotency, or blindness has been done on the offended part. Or, when by reason or on the occasion of the robbery, any of the serious physical injuries resulting in the loss of an eye, a hand, a foot, an arm, a leg, or is part of the body has been inflicted on the offended party. Or, when the said violence and intimidation employed in the commission of the robbery is carried to a degree clearly unnecessary for the commission of the crime. Or, when in the course of the commission of the robbery, the offender shall have been inflicted upon any person not responsible for the robbery, any of the serious physical injuries resulting in deformity, or the loss of any other part of the body of the victim, or the use of his part of his body, or would incapacitate the offended party from labor for a period of more than 90 days or more than 30 days. And lastly, when the physical injuries inflicted in the course of the robbery does not amount to serious physical injuries, or when robbery is done with intimidation only. Otherwise stated, we have the special complex crime of robbery with homicide, the special complex crime of robbery with rape, robbery with intentional mutilation, robbery with arson, robbery with serious physical injuries. And we have also robbery with unnecessary violence and simple robbery if the said robbery is done with intimidation only. This is the sequence as provided for under Article 294, and you have to know the sequence because if in the problem given in the bar, there is killing on the commission of the robbery, there is killing, there is rape, there is serious physical injuries. The highest in the sequence under Article 294 would be the crime committed, that is robbery with homicide. Even if in the commission of the act of robbery, what takes place first was rape, and then mutilation, and the last one is the killing. Because what you consider is the sequence in 294 and not the sequence based on the acts performed by the offender. The accused, A, B, C, D, and E, entered the house of W. A, B, C, D, and E were all armed with long firearms. And they told W that they are there to get their cash and all their valuables. And if this would be immediately handed to them, they will just live without hurting anybody. So that his family would not be hurt, W went upstairs in order to get whatever cash they have and whatever valuables they have. When W came back, W gave everything to these 5 men. Thereafter, the men left. What crime has been committed by these men? These men are liable for robbery. It amounts to simple robbery only under Article 294 because it is done only with intimidation. But how many are the offenders? The offenders are 5 men and they are all armed. Therefore, the crime committed is robbery by band under Article 296. Let us say that in the same problem, the moment the 5 men entered the said house of X and Y, same things. They said that they just, if the valuables are handed to them, they would believe it without hurting anybody. And so the wife W went upstairs to get valuables. At that precise moment, the said one of the children of the said husband and wife ran out of the door. She saw an opportunity, she ran out of the door. And thereafter, while running out of the said door, one of the said men, one of the 5 men, A, followed the girl. And he was able to catch up with the girl outside, about 8 meters away from the house. And thereafter, before bringing home the said child, he had carnal knowledge of the said girl. Thereafter, he brought the said girl to the house. Meanwhile, the wife or the mother came downstairs and gave everything to the said men, all their valuables, and the said men left. What crime or crimes had been committed by these men? Insofar as A is concerned, the crime committed is the special complex crime of robbery with rape. Insofar as the 4 other men are concerned, the crime committed is robbery by band under Article 296. Insofar as A is concerned, it is robbery with rape. Reason is, by reason or on the occasion of the said robbery, he committed the act of rape against the said girl. But isn't it that it is a special complex crime? Therefore, all of them should be liable for robbery with rape. They are not all liable for robbery with rape because the act of rape that accompanies the crime of robbery only happens insofar as A is concerned and outside the house. Therefore, B, C, D, and E, the other 4 men, were not given the opportunity to prevent the commission of the act of rape. Hence, only A will be liable for robbery with rape, and insofar as the others are concerned, they are all liable for robbery by band under Article 296. But what if in the same problem, when these men enter the house of X and Y, they said that they only wanted the valuables, pointing the gun, and the said wife went upstairs, took the said valuables, and then thereafter, after giving the valuables to the said men, the men were about to leave, but suddenly these men took notice of the 3 daughters. And so all these 5 men took turns in having carnal knowledge of the 3 girls. After that, they were about to leave, but realizing that these men or this family would recognize their face, before leaving, they all fired shots at the family, and the entire family died. What crime or crimes had been committed by A, B, C, D, and E? They are all liable for the crime of robbery with homicide. The criminal intent was to rob. What took place during the said robbery? We have first rape, and then we have the act of killing, which is homicide. Again, you take into consideration the sequence under Article 294 and not the sequence as to the acts performed by the offender. So although What accompanies first robbery was rape and not homicide. Since homicide was the first in sequence under Article 294, the crime committed is robbery with homicide, the act of rape is simply absorbed. It will not even be considered an aggravating circumstance because under Article 14 of Book 1, the law does not say that an additional rape, an additional killing would aggravate the criminal liability of the offender. So the crime committed is robbery with homicide, all of them as conspirators for the crime of robbery with homicide. In case of robbery with homicide, the use of the word homicide is its generic sense. Whatever be the kind of killing, whether it is murder, whether it is infanticide, whether even if it is accidental death, still it is termed homicide. And since it is a special complex crime, regardless of the number of persons killed in the course of the said robbery, there is only one single indivisible offense of robbery with homicide. The same is true insofar as robbery with rape, robbery with intentional mutilation, robbery with arson, and robbery with serious physical injuries is concerned. For as long as the original criminal intent is to rob, the said rape, the said intentional mutilation, arson, or physical injuries may take place before, during, and after the robbery. And it is immaterial as to the number of persons who had been raped, injured, houses burned, and also persons intentionally mutilated. They will all be absorbed. 5 men entered the house of W, and thereafter, once inside, they began ransacking the house, taking everything they could take. Because the said house, at the time, the house was without any person inside, the family was out. While they were ransacking the house, they were able to get everything. They placed whatever they were able to take inside their backpacks. Suddenly, here comes the owner of the house, the father, the head of the family. The husband arrived, and he was so shocked there was light inside. And upon entering there, he saw this man ransacking his house. And so, at the time, he has a gun. And he tried to fire at one of the said robbers. But the said robber was able to have a fight with him. And so both of them struggled for the possession of the said gun. In their fight, they went outside the house. And in the course of the said struggle for the possession of the gun accidentally fired. And it hit a person passing by. That person was hit on the chest, and that person died. Meanwhile, in their struggle for the possession of the gun, one of the said robbers who was in struggle with the husband was able to gain possession of the said gun, and thereafter he shot the said owner. Thereafter, the 5 men, A, B, C, D, and E, were all armed, left. And they set the house on fire in order to conceal the act of robbery and the act of killing. Later, they were arrested. What crimes had been committed by these men? What if these men are charged with a crime of robbery in bond with homicide? Are they liable as charged? There is no such crime as robbery in bond with homicide. Robbery with homicide is a special complex crime. It is the law that combines the crime. And the law never combines robbery by bond with homicide. There is no such special complex crime. So what is the crime committed? The crime committed is robbery with homicide. Even if 2 persons died, 1 accidental, and even if the house was burned. The other death, as well as the setting of the house on fire, the arson, are all absorbed in the single indivisible offense of robbery with homicide, because it is the first in sequence under Article 294. X went to the house of Y. Pointing a gun at Y, X told Y, "Give me your valuables, everything." However, Y said, I have no money. We have no money. But X said, you just give me everything, otherwise I'm going to shoot. But Y said, look inside my house, I have no money. X searched the entire house. Nothing, no valuables to take. And so X was about to leave. He wasn't able to take anything. But before leaving, he fired a shot at Y and Y died. What crime is committed by X? X was prosecuted for robbery with homicide. Is the charge correct? The charge is wrong. What is the crime committed? Attempted robbery with homicide. To bring about robbery, it is necessary that the personal property of another must be taken. The offender must have gained possession of the personal property of another. If, as in this case, nothing was taken, therefore it is merely attempted robbery. And it is obvious based on the facts that the original criminal intent was to rob. Therefore, the crime committed is attempted robbery. And the said attempted robbery was accompanied by the crime of homicide. Before leaving, X shot the owner of the house. So we have another special complex crime under Article 297, and that is attempted robbery with homicide. So when robbery is not consummated, and by reason or on the occasion thereof homicide is committed, we still have a special complex crime, attempted robbery with homicide. The other kind of robbery is under Article 299, robbery by force upon things, robbery in a public building, in a house or dwelling, or in a place devoted to worship. And in case of robbery by force upon things under Article 299, there are three ways of committing the acts of robbery. First, when the offender enters the dwelling of another, where personal property is taken through any of the following means. First, through an opening not intended for entrance or egress, by breaking any wall, roof, floor, door, or window, by using picklocks, by using false keys or other similar tools, or by using a fictitious name or pretending the exercise of public authority. This is the first mode of committing robbery by force upon things. The second one, when the offender enters the premises of another without use of unlawful entry. Or when the offender is an insider. And once inside, he took the personal property of another with intent to gain by employing force, that is, by breaking any closed or sealed furniture, chest, wardrobe, receptacle. And lastly, the third act, when the offender managed to enter the premises of another without use of unlawful entry. Once inside, he did not employ force. What did he do? He took this closed or sealed receptacle and just outside. Outside, definitely, to take the said thing inside this closed or sealed receptacle, they had to be broken. So these are the three ways of committing robbery by force upon things. Supreme Court said in a case, outside these three acts, it is theft. After the first act, under Article 299, what makes it robbery by force upon things is the presence of unlawful entry. The offender must enter the premises of another. And when the law says unlawful entry, it means the entire body of the offender has entered the premises of another in order to take that person's personal property. Under the second mode of committing robbery by force upon things, what makes it robbery by force upon things is not the unlawful entry, because he was able to enter inside without use of unlawful entry, or he was an insider. What makes it robbery by use of force upon things is the employment of force inside in order to take the personal property of another, that is, by breaking any locked or sealed receptacle, chest, furniture. Under the third mode of committing robbery by force upon things, this time, the offender, again, did not gain unlawful entry. What makes it robbery by force upon things is the fact that he took the said closed or sealed receptacle outside. Outside force need be employed in order to open this closed or sealed receptacle. The accused intending to rob the house, this big house of a wealthy clan, tried to find ways how to get inside. As he was outside the fence, looking everywhere, luckily for him, he was able to see an open window. An open window on the third floor of the house. And so what did he do? He climbed the fence. Thereafter jumped on the wall, and from there, he was able to climb up to the said open window. He was able to get inside. Once inside, he just concentrated in one room and took the valuables from the said room. And thereafter, he also got outside by passing through the same open window. He was thereafter arrested. And upon his arrest, when the police officers were taking the things from his bag, the police officers were able to get the valuables. And the owners of the house were able to identify that these valuables belonged to them. But the police officers also took notice something. They noticed a picklock in the said bag of the said robber, of the said person. What crime or crimes must be filed against this person? What crime or crime should the police file? The police officer should file 2 cases. The first case to be filed is robbery by use of force upon things under Article 299, that is first paragraph. The said act of robbery was done after an unlawful entry. He entered through a window which is not intended for entrance or egress. Therefore, it is robbery by force upon things under the first act of Article 299 by means of unlawful entry. He is also liable for illegal possession of picklocks under Article 304. The illegal possession of picklocks will constitute a separate and distinct charge because he did not use the picklock in the commission of the said act of robbery. And under Article 304, any person found in possession of picklock which has been adopted for the crime of robbery or theft shall be liable for illegal possession of picklock. Therefore, there are 2 cases to be filed against this robber. But what if in the same problem, the said robber entered the premises of this wealthy clan through the front door because he made use of this picklock in order to break open the door. And the door was opened, take valuables. Later he was arrested. The things inside his bag were proven to be those taken from this house. And there was the picklock that he used to gain entry. What crime or crimes must the police officers file against them? The police officer should file only 1 case, and that is robbery by force upon things under Article 299, First Act punished. The said act of unlawful entry was done by using picklocks. Since the picklock was the very means to gain unlawful entry, therefore it is absorbed in the commission of the crime as an element thereof. Hence, there is only 1 crime committed, and that is violation of Article 299. X and Y, this was given during my time in the bar. This is a question in the bar during my time. X and Y are brothers. And they live in the same house and they share the same room. And X needed money. X was involved in gambling. He has loans everywhere. And one of the persons on whom he has loans is already threatening him if he would not pay now. So he needed money now. He looked for his brother Y to ask help. He could not find Y. What he did, he broke open the cabinet of Y, the lock of the cabinet of Y, and thereafter took all his valuable jewelries, the expensive watch, the expensive bracelet, and the expensive ring of his brother, and then thereafter he sold it, and the proceeds he paid to the person on whom he obtained a loan. The question during our time, my time, what is the question is, What is the crime committed? Is the offender criminally and civilly liable? The crime committed is robbery by force upon things under Article 299, Second Act Punish. Here, the offender was an insider. Therefore, he was able to gain entry without use of unlawful entry. He is an insider. However, it is robbery because he employed force in breaking the said lock cabinet in order to obtain, with intent to gain, the personal property of his brother. Therefore, the crime committed is robbery by force upon things. Since the crime committed is robbery by force upon things, the said brother is both criminally and civilly liable. His relationship will not absolve him of criminal liability. So he shall be both criminally and civilly liable. Although the relationship factor would mitigate his criminal liability, it will not exempt him from criminal liability. But what if this brother, he needed money, looking for the other brother, couldn't find that other brother? He saw the bag of his brother on top of the bed. He opened the bag, wanting to get the wallet, but instead of seeing the wallet, he saw these precious jewelries of his brother. The watch, the ring. And so he took it, and then thereafter, he sold it, and the deposits he paid to the person on whom he has loaned. What crime has been committed by X, brother X? Is brother X both criminally and civilly liable? The crime committed by brother X is theft. And since the crime committed is theft, brother X is not criminally liable but only civilly liable under Article 332 of the Revised Penal Code. Under Article 332, no criminal liabilities but only civil liability shall arise from the commission of the crimes of theft, swindling, or malicious mischief among the following. Number 3, brothers and sisters, brothers-in-law and sisters-in-law if they are living together. X and Y are brothers and they are living together. Therefore, the fact that X took the personal property of his brother amounted to theft. X will only be civilly liable but not criminally liable. What if there was this stall in the along the university belt. In the university belt, there were many food stalls, and one of this is the rice in a box food stall. It was already about 1 o'clock in the evening, 1 o'clock early morning, and so the university belt was already silent. You could not see any people around. Everybody was fast asleep. Here comes A and B. A and B went to the said food stall of rice in a box and thereafter broke open the lock. Once inside, they took every valuables, utensils to use in the business, and everything valuables. In the morning, it was discovered. The police called the owner arrived, and gave the assessment as to the things taken. But because of the CCTV camera in the area, the said 2 men who broke open the lock were discovered and they were arrested. What crimes had been committed by them? Supreme Court said the crime committed is robbery in an uninhabited place or robbery in private building under Article 302. It is not this time under Article 299 but under Article 302. Under Article 302, the same acts of robbery as in Article 299 are present. They only differ in the fact that under Article 299, the act of robbery is committed in a public building or in a house or in a place devoted to worship. Whereas, under Article 302, these 3 acts of robbery must be committed in a private building or an uninhabited place. The Supreme Court considered the place as an uninhabited place Because at the time, the university belt was already silent and there were no people around. So the said accused were held liable under Article 302 and under Article 299. How is